Hey everyone, let's get started with our next lecture block, which is all about careers. This first lecture will discuss how do we prepare for a career in kinesiology. And so here we are, and let's look at our lecture objectives or chapter objectives. We're going to discuss characteristics of a profession, different career options. We're going to do some self-assessment inventories and then look at volunteer activities, internships, extracurriculars, and how to obtain certifications. So, first, what is a profession? You can see the definition up here of a profession and then some characteristics that we find in professional fields, such as that most careers are based on having a extensive theoretical knowledge. You have some sort of competency for entry into that field. There's opportunities for growth and development, and you're always providing some sort of valuable service socially. Workers in professional occupations usually have mastered some sort of complex skill set. They also possess cognitive, perceptual, interpersonal skills. Again, they're performing some sort of service for other people in the community. They're also usually granted a monopoly to supply those services. We're guided by codes, ethical codes that we have to follow, trainings that we have to go through. And then you're always trying to meet some sort of expectation or standard for whatever that professional subculture is. So, such as like what is expected in the workplace, what is like prohibited, certain behaviors, actions that you know to follow and to not follow. Here we look at how occupations fall on a continuum ranging from professional to non-professional. And so major professions have all the characteristics of professions, whereas we have non-professions who don't really possess any of those characteristics that we just talked about. And so major professions are kind of like your classic professions, such as like a doctor, a lawyer, a professor, a banker, an engineer. So kind of anything of that field or any of those subfields. Whereas a non-profession, it does not mean that they are not making or don't have a high salary or don't have a high income from their job. It just means they may not possess all of those characteristics that we went over, such as obtaining an extensive knowledge in a certain area or meeting certain ethical standards or codes or guided by something along those lines. They could be anything from a social media influencer to somebody who is a entrepreneur kind of on their own terms, such as day trading, or someone who started their own business. Again, they may not have those characteristics of the professions that we've kind of listed as classic or traditional professions, but they still may be making a good living from it. It could also be white collar versus blue collar. So our white collar would be our major professions. Our blue collar professionals would be the non-profession side. And so anyway, just kind of know how to classify professions versus non-professions. Also, we look at professional expertise. These four pillars basically make up when someone has a high level of professional expertise in the kinesiology field, such as we just kind of talked about theoretical kinesiology knowledge. This is anything from what you learn in class to reading textbooks to reading literature like journal articles. We see physical activity experience, which is like your exercise that you do, sports you play, or even observation of any of that. Professional practice would be practicums. Finn, come here. Practicums or internships. And then workplace knowledge is what you would learn actually working for a profession or in a profession. It's things that you can't learn until you're actually there working. It may take weeks, months, years to understand that workplace knowledge. Next is just some slides that talk about opportunities in different areas, such as opportunities in teaching. So if you wanted to teach, go into education or teach fitness, physical activity, teach anything along those lines, you can kind of browse through and look at these different career opportunities. Next is opportunities in health and fitness. We see cardiac rehab, personal training, sports medicine clinics, therapeutic recreation. Also keep in mind that these don't have to be like your overreaching like career goal that you're aiming for. This could be something that you do supplemental on the weekends or in the evenings. It could be while you're in grad school trying to pay for your graduate courses. Anything that you have a certification in or a license in that you can do on the side to make additional income. One thing we also want to understand is, are all fitness instructors actual professionals? This was a researcher who looked at 115 health fitness, what we call professionals, quote unquote, and found that 70% of them did not actually have a degree in exercise science or kinesiology. And the rest of this kind of talks about that the findings that this researcher basically suggested was we would really like for people who are prescribing exercise and giving personal fitness advice and counseling on nutrition should at least have some sort of bachelor's degree in the exercise science or kinesiology field and a certification or a license to do this. Because when they don't, it dilutes our field with individuals who are not as educated as like the actual professionals who are really teaching this material. There's a lot of different places for individuals to become certified. Even if you don't have a degree in exercise science or kinesiology, getting a certification is great and you can go out and train. But we really do want you to be certified if you're doing this because it makes our field less reputable when people don't have certifications. ACSM and NSCA, which we'll talk about in this lecture, are the kind of gold standard of fitness certifications in our field. There are lots of other organizing bodies, but they may not all be accredited. But these two have a lot of certifications that I'll discuss today. Continuing, these are some opportunities in intercollegiate athletics, anywhere from coaching to getting into like the sports side of things. So you can look at those different opportunities. Here is outdoor recreation. I think this is really fun, and these would be like fun summer jobs or winter jobs to do when you have some time off to make some extra income. But obviously, we would want you to get certified in doing any of this as well. Next, we're going to do some inventories. I want you to pause this slide and figure out which personality type you possess. I think it's fun to figure out things about ourselves and do these inventory questionnaires. And so this one here has you read through and kind of pick what personality you think you might be. And then it also tells you what career you're most likely suited for based on that personality type. This next one here, you can pause and figure out where you fall with these different areas, above average or top 10%. Do you have any weaknesses in these areas, such as computer skills or public speaking, leadership ability? So you can kind of read through those and like check off rank where you think you fall, just to kind of get another self-assessment. Next, we're going to look at what you should be doing first, second, third, and fourth year in college. I'm just going to kind of talk about the major points here, but you can pause these screens and kind of read each of these little bubbles or these little blocks at the bottom. So first is making sure that you know your resources available on campus, discussing your majors, your minors, your careers, and make sure you're talking with your academic advisor. Okay. And then also talk with professors as well. Get familiar with professors, especially ones in your major, once you pick your major. Also start working on your resume. Make sure you've recorded any experiences you've done in college or starting in high school, and kind of working on that. So we'll start drafting your resume. Here is think about joining a professional organization such as pre-PT club or the pre-med club or any of those clubs. Continue working on the resume, make a draft of your resume and have someone look over it like a professor or an academic advisor or someone in the career development department. Also, start interviewing people that are in your career and see if you can shadow them and if that's kind of to figure out if that's something that you want to do. Finn, come here, Finn. And then get into some extracurricular clubs and activities related to your potential career. Third year is continue adding to your resume every single semester. Keep adding to it, updating it with all the things that you've done. Continue to meet with your advisor. Make sure you're on track for all the courses that you need in order to graduate. Also meet with your internship advisor. That's me. I'm in charge of internships in the kinesiology department. And so you can discuss with me anything you want about how to apply for internships. Next is participate actively in your clubs that you've joined previously, attend career fairs, job fairs, and then you can start joining state, regional, or national organizations and begin networking for possible internships, careers. You can start working with professors in their research labs and get on their research abstracts and help try to present those at those conferences. And then what are some others? A lot of kind of things to do in your third year. Last year is start to try to attend those meetings of state, regional, national conferences with your research that you've done in the labs with your professors. Again, participate actively in those clubs, prepare letters for application. Make sure you have professors or people that you've worked with who can write recommendation letters for you if you're going to grad school. Um, Find out all the requirements, the prereqs that you need for whatever graduate level program that you're trying to get into. Complete a mock job interview or interviews for graduate program. Continue to network, and then yeah, that's kind of it. Again, just make sure you're on track for graduation and make sure your resume is up to par. You can kind of read through those in more detail if you would like to. Next, let's look at gaining experience. Volunteer activities are really great. We look for that when we write recommendation letters, seeing what you've done in the community. A big one I like to see is volunteering for like food pantry, volunteering at the animal shelters, working with certain church or youth groups. You can also be a sports coach, work with youth sports teams. You can work in intramurals at Texas Tech or the sports club. You can be a sports writer for college newspaper. You can do some officiating. Obviously, the internship is really important. And then let's talk about certifications. So actually, this talks about internships first. This is the KIN 4375 internship program, and it is a really great program, but you can kind of read through, but most of us probably understand the importance of an internship. If you have any additional questions about getting internships or taking this course, you can reach out to me. But yeah, you can kind of read through those different points and understand why internships are so great and how they can set you up for your future career. And then importance of certifications makes you stand out on applications. Basically says that you've achieved this high level of competence, you've achieved a certain standard of knowledge, you've got certain skills, you can identify things, you can pick certain things out by reading research, by reading a case study and answering questions. It shows your commitment to enhance career preparation. It enables employers to differentiate different applicants. Somebody who they both have a master's degree, but if one has a certification and the other doesn't, they're most likely always going to pick the person with the certification. So like I said, I really like ACSM, American College of Sports Medicine. Several certifications they have. This first one is like your entry level, which is the certified personal trainer, and then your certified group exercise instructor. Those are both really great ones to start on. And then this next one, I have the personal trainer and then the certified exercise physiologist. And so they all have a book that you can go to this website at the top and go to the certifications page, click on the certification. They have study materials, they have ways to prepare, they have how to schedule your exam. And then some other ones get a little bit more clinical, technical. You have to have certain levels of like clinical hours and certain degrees, like a master's degree in order to get some of these. But there's some really great opportunities. So I'd suggest looking into that one, as well as NSCA. They also have a personal trainer, which is this baseline one here. I have the certified strength and conditioning specialist, which anybody who's working with athletes and designing strength and conditioning programs for sports teams most likely have this certification or a similar one. They have some other ones. You can look into the definition kind of those or kind of what type of people would sit for and obtain those certifications. But these are the two best organizations basically that I like. There are some other ones you may have heard of, like NASM. That one has some certifications out there. That one's the National Academy of Sports Medicine. There's ACE, American Council of Exercise. So you can reach out to me and see if you found a certifying body and you're interested to see if they're accredited or if they're reputable. Next are just some questions to ask yourself. Again, with the self inventories, what do you want to do after graduation? What plans do you have in 5, 10, 20 years from now? And what resources, people, experiences are actually going to help you get there? What about coursework? What coursework do you think you need to take in order to make your career decision? And then how motivated are you to dedicate your time and effort needed to be successful and satisfied with your career choice? So again, just think about, answer those questions. But I hope you've enjoyed this lecture. We'll continue in our career section, getting to our health and fitness next. But that's it for right now, and we'll talk to you soon.